Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Psycho, and I've got another Walking Dead video for you all today. Now, this one is actually going to be over something pretty cool, and it's all going to involve speculation, but it is something that I need to mention. This was actually brought up by a few of my viewers, and I greatly appreciate it when some of my viewers let me in on the know about certain things in the show. So, if you ever notice something that you think maybe I didn't catch in the episode, make sure to tell me in the comments, because that always helps out a lot, and it enables me to be able to talk about it now that I know. So basically what these viewers told me was that in the intro of the episode where it showed Maggie and Glenn in the shower, we know it had the Johnny Cash song playing and the lyrics were connecting to what was happening before. Like, I noticed the lyrics were connecting to Carol leaving, but what my commenters noticed was that when Maggie was scrubbing Glenn's head in the shower, the lyrics stated, "I was broken in a million little pieces." And I actually did not notice this at first. I did notice the "it's all over" line and that referencing to maybe possibly Glenn dying, but the broken into a million little pieces just adds on even more to this, because we all know Glenn is in the running for a death, and with Lucile coming up, we all know that Lucile does have a little experience with bashing in some heads, as we saw with the pictures on the wall when Glenn was viewing them as well. So just the idea that out of all of those people that it was showing with these lyrics going on, it showed Glenn and it showed Maggie scrubbing his head as those lyrics exactly came on. So if this did happen to be a coincidence, it would be very, very minuscule by chance. So as we can see, we can assume that this is on purpose, and I know some people are going to think that I'm reaching here, but it does make sense because it would be very hard for this lyric to come on exactly as this moment came on in the show, and for this to come on accidentally would definitely be a small chance. And one thing we do have to realize is that every scene matched with every lyric. Every bit of it made sense, just like it talked about leaving, and then Carol was leaving. All of that was connecting together perfectly, so why not assume that this is connecting together once again as well? And The Walking Dead does like to put in a lot of foreshadowing like this, and it's just up to us to notice it, so I definitely thought this was very awesome. Now I want to tread into some territory that no one else told me, so I used this information that you guys told me about, and then I tried to dig in deeper and see what else I could find to connect back to that. Now, I did mention the part where I said "it's all over." That could have possibly referenced to Glenn being over, their relationship being over because of Glenn dying, so that is something to think about. But there is another scene that I noticed when they were in the shower, and this is where Maggie, she's got the water running over her face, and Glenn is behind her. Now, I did mention in my review that maybe she was crying, but you couldn't really see the tears because of water running over her face. But what I want to mostly focus on here is the lyrics, and at this moment, at this scene, it said, "Stop your crying, turn around, and let her go." So even though it says her, it would be a gender swap in this situation, because Glenn is behind Maggie. So maybe it's referencing to the idea of Maggie turning around and letting Glenn go, because Glenn is about to die. Just like it mentioned to the "it's all over" lyric and the "broken into a million little pieces," it might be referencing that Maggie needs to let Glenn go simply because he might die in the future to Negan and Lucille. Now, a lot of us know that this is very likely, and Glenn is a huge candidate. We saw the Saviors take Glenn, and I'm going to assume that they're going to kidnap him and take him to Negan, so he is a candidate for Lucille. Now moving on to the Daryl foreshadowing, and this is going to be reaching a lot more than the other one we looked at because there was a lot of evidence and reasoning as to why that is possible, but we go on over to Daryl. And once again, we get that same line in repetition where it says, "I was broken into a million little pieces." And of course it doesn't have a lot of hinting like someone touching his head as well, but it is a headshot image, and this is definitely reaching, and I'll admit that. But it is something to bring up because out of all the other times they chose to say that line once again, it was on the scene with Dixon. And Glenn and Daryl are the two top candidates for Lucille right now, and I know a lot of us are thinking these are the two most possible people. However, considering that Daryl was shot in the shoulder in the most recent episode, it might take him out of the running for dying by Negan and Lucille, simply because I don't know if Negan would want to kill an injured guy to make a point. In addition to that, we can also think on the other side and the opposite idea of this argument, and this is definitely a point as well. The lyrics with Glenn could be focusing on Glenn himself physically, but the lyrics with Daryl could be focusing on him emotionally. Because we know Daryl is emotionally broken. He came from a hard place, his brother died, now the people around him are dying because he chose not to kill a person in the woods. So this definitely makes sense as well, and I would definitely understand if this is what they were referencing. Plus, it would be pretty awesome to think that they were referencing physically and emotionally with the same lyric, but that changing with two different people. So that is something I definitely like to do. I always try and make sure to look at the other side of things, and I don't want to just focus on one side, because you become blind when you just say, oh, it cannot be this other side, it has to be this, and then you don't recognize the good points that the other side has as well. This is just something really awesome that I wanted to bring up, and it is always so cool to see instances of foreshadowing and hints and Easter eggs within this episode. This episode had a lot of foreshadowing and Easter eggs, and I just love covering these things. So if you guys have anything else you want me to talk about, that would definitely be awesome. Also, thank you guys for bearing with me. I am still pretty sick right now, and I just woke up. But once again, thank you all for watching. It means a lot to me. Thanks again. Peace out.